Ahoy! The Maui Patch, Hero of Hawaii, is here, and it may honestly be my favorite guard release of the year, and maybe also my favorite patch of the year. There's just a lot of good small things, I would say, a lot of good things in general. There's not one massive thing that just stands out as the big change, like mid-season or whatever else, but rather it's just a very well-done patch. So let's get into it. Well, there is actually a very massive change as well regarding beats, but we'll get to that later. We'll begin with Maui, though. So Maui's abilities in general, if you look at it, the first thing that stands out to me is they're not overly complex, and it's great. It's very refreshing to have descriptions that, you know, at least fit on here without having a massive block of text for every single one of them. They all do one thing generally, and they do that thing well. And I really like that because a lot of the guard releases lately have not been like that. So let's talk about them. Master Fisherman is the passive. No, it's not. Sorry. Manaya Kalani is the passive. When an enemy guard is hard crowd controlled near Maui, they are marked for the duration of the crowd control and an additional 2 seconds afterwards. If Maui basic attacks an enemy with this mark, his next basic attack becomes enhanced. Any guards hit by Maui's enhanced basic attack are pulled to him. This passive has a 10 seconds cooldown. This is absolutely massive because it's basically adding insult to injury. You already have someone locked down, and then you give them extra CC. And as far as I understand it, because it says near Maui, I'm assuming at least that it means his own CC doesn't count for this, but ally CC. I'm hoping at least that's how they made it sound before, and in the closer look as well, that's the way they mean it. So he can't like combat on himself, I think, but other guards can set up for him, which is very cool and really cool for team fights. The first actual ability is Master Fisherman. Basically, this is a hook with a vortex pull. Maui charges up, spinning his hook and preparing it to go farther the longer he charges. When he refires, the projectile damages enemies and stops on the first guard hit, so you can throw it through minions. If Maui hits an enemy guard, he reels them in, crippling and vortexing them towards himself for 1.5 seconds. This is not like a full Sylvanas type pull, like rather it's just like a slow pull that pulls them somewhat to your direction. Maui can cancel this ability at any time. The hook does 100 to 360 damage plus 50% of your magical power. Maximum range is 55, so not super long. Costs 80 mana and cooldown going from 16 to 14 seconds. I think this is an interesting ability that gives you a good amount of lockdown without being completely insane. And as we're on the topic of him throwing his hook, his basic attacks are also him throwing his hook forward. And while they are cleaves, so they hit multiple targets, what they didn't mention earlier in the closer look is that the attack itself is very narrow. It's very far. I think it was 25 units, but it's a very small line basically. And when I hear cleave, I think of like a cone shape basically. That's not what it is. It's a cleave in the sense that you can hit multiple targets. So if you stand like to the side of the wave and hit through the wave, for example, you can hit them, or you can probably hit like 4 minions at least if you hit between 2 of them and then hit between 2 archers as well. But it's not super easy to hit more than that. So that's worth keeping in mind. And that's also worth keeping in mind in combination with the passive. His second ability is Mystical Ulua. He throws a fountain of magical water, and this first gives allied guards within a 35 unit radius protections and movement speed, 5 to 25 protections and 4 to 20% movement speed for 5 seconds. And then there's this pillar of water that stays there for 10 seconds. And if an ally walks into this pillar and stands in the water for 1 second, a bubble forms around them, and they are then carried to Maui's location. So it's similar to Heimdall's teleport, basically, but instead you're going to Maui, and yeah, you still have to stand in for 1 second, so you can't just instantly activate it, which I was kind of hoping would be the case, but yeah, it's not ultra safe, but it still gives you a lot of extra safety. And when you do this teleport, you also get the extra protections and movement speed for 5 seconds again. And then Maui can leave the aura radius as well. And if no ally is interacting with the water, at that point it is destroyed. The aura radius here being 110 units. Mana cost 55 to 75 and the cooldown 14 to 10 seconds. So this is something you can actually use very, very frequently. It's a pretty potent buff, I would say, especially on the movement speed side. And then the third ability is Solar Swing. I predicted this correctly. He hooks into the sky and then swings forward in this pendulum style swing on this hook, and you can get off at any point basically, I think at least. And when you land, you slam into the ground and deal damage and stun enemies in the area. So yeah, actually it does mention here that you can reactivate the ability early. So the stun or the landing damage is 110 to 335 plus 6% of your magical power. Radius of the attack itself is 17.5, which is decently large for sure, especially because it comes with a stun. It doesn't actually mention the stun duration. Interesting. 90 mana cost and 16 seconds cooldown. Obviously also an escape at the same time to some degree, but yeah, primarily going to be used as like an engage CC type of thing. Landfall, I also predicted correctly. Maui selects an area, becomes CC immune, and leaps into the air. Throws his hook at the target area and pulls up an island, so it's actually going to be the island, so that's really cool. And then knocking all enemies in the area up into the air and then pulls them in front of himself. The island remains on the battleground, blocking player movement for 4 seconds. Maui can reactivate this ability to destroy the island early. Knock-up damage is actually pretty high, 275 to 675 plus 80% of your magical power. Knock-up area is 22.5 and the island area is 18. Mana cost 100, cooldown 90 seconds. Generally speaking, this guy has a lot of CC. You have CC in the ult, or like a lot of pulls. So you have CC in the swing, you have CC in the 1, and you have CC in the passive. The only thing that doesn't have CC but has buffs instead is the 2. But that, I mean, I think it's still a very potent ability. I believe that they've actually managed to put him in a place where it's very difficult to not play him as support. On one hand, because of the passive, as I'm interpreting it, you need an ally for it. If that's the case, then that needs an ally. The second ability does relatively little without an ally. And really, the rest of his kit sounds like it's meant for setup. It's all meant for setup. And yeah, he still has decent damage numbers here, but that's just Guardian stuff. You have to have high base numbers and then relatively low scaling, which is the case, so that they can do some damage as well. So yeah, I really think they knocked it out of the park in terms of design with Maui. From what I can tell so far, obviously I'll have to test them, but I think both visually and numbers-wise, everything seems very, very good. And yeah, he might become my favorite God release of the year. We'll see. I have to try him first, but like, I just like supports that do support things, and this guy definitely does support things and is cool while doing it. So yeah, that's all I need. Then we have a look at his card arts here, Mastery, the recolors. He also gets an actual skin from the start in the Halloween chest, Detoxify Maui. There's also a new Morgan face skin, Cinderfall, another Ruby collab. This one has Jessica Nigri as the voice actress. Very interesting. And then we have Toony Terracilla. A lot of people like this skin as well, so the cartoon-inspired one, even the steamboat in the back there. We have Cyberwolf Skadi, a Plague Purger Ra. Love this one. Honey Bunny Bastet. Dark Magic Aphrodite. Bloody Moon Nox, and what may very well be my favorite Sylvanas skin ever, Blazing Tormentor Sylvanas. I'm going to make this big. Check this out. It's just not even Sylvanas anymore. It's just some abomination of I don't even know what to put it. It's just great. I love it. I think it's fantastic. This skin deserves way more attention. I know, it's the usual. It's the edgy type of stuff, but it just works so well for Sylvanas with the chains as the pole and stuff. It's great. It's great. And it's in the Odyssey event, so that's even greater. And there's also Darkest Night Shibalanke, equally edgy. Looks a bit like the ninja skin that he already has, but hey. And then in the bonus update, we have another really cool skin, the Primordial Paragon Guan Yu, also in the Odyssey. So the Odyssey skins this time, just exactly my taste. And Spymaster Kali, also in the Odyssey. I actually wanted to make that one big too. Check this one out. I think this is a very, very unique design, very different from what she normally looks like. So, but it still implements her elements very cool in a very cool way. So very, very happy with that. We have Rumbly Chibi Thor, not towards DKO at this point, I'm assuming. So I'm not quite sure. Divine Knockout, if you don't know what DKO is yet. Not quite sure why they're not talking more about DKO, but hey, we'll see. It'll happen soon enough, I'm sure. And then we have the release schedule here, blah, blah, blah. You've seen all this, so you know this, basically. We have some Smite Night stuff. The Corrupted Arena is back, but only metal skins in honor of Hath. Didn't know of that band before. They're actually extremely heavy, even for Smite. I'm surprised. Some progressive, darkened, whatever type of metal. I don't know the exact description, but very, very heavy. And yeah, other than that, Soaring Isles, bonus chest, that might be interesting. But yeah, you can see it. You can see it, whatever. I don't care about this event stuff. I say that as we're looking at the Reaping event with the skins. Yeah, but this I care about. CC bar icons. So they are updating icons because they did already update some of them, and then because they changed some things, it became a little bit misleading. So now there are new icons for Root. This is the icon for Root now, and for Mesmerize on the player, like showing with the bar how long the CC lasts, which I think is very good. What's weird is that they have a bunch of CCs that they have adjusted so that you now know what type of CC it is, but they give them different icons. And it's like Banish has the stun icon, Madness has the taunt icon, that kind of makes sense. Disorient has the stun icon, Slippery Surface has the fear icon. It's just like, why not just give them like more unique icons? I know that like CCs that only are used by like one thing don't necessarily need to have their own icon, or like this can make things more confusing, but honestly, I'd rather just have all of them have icons of some sort that make more sense. Like Banish is not a stun, and especially Knock Up and Knockback, now using no icons consistent with how it was previously. But I wish there was just a unique icon for Knock Ups and Knock Ups at least that show the duration at least. Like in a Sylvanas Knock Up, I think it would be good to actually just have an icon that tells us. There's a bunch of bug fixes, pre-match lobby console freezes. This one is apparently really important. I'm not aware what this was, but apparently this was a very, very common thing, and they think they have found it now. And then there's a lot of other bug fixes, yada, 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 item fixes, some renaming and stuff. And then we have some conquest changes. Now, what they're doing here is they're buffing the Naga because they want the duo side to be a little less snowbally. They're also nerfing, you can see the buffs all here if you want to know the details. They're also making Interceptor a little bit weaker. They're decreasing the base damage from 20 to 60 to 15 to 55 per shot. And probably more importantly, they're changing the Gold Fury Pyromancer. So what they're doing on one hand is they are nerfing the Gold Fury in early game in terms of both reward, the gold going down from 150 to 130, and also stats. So the base health going down from 3,500 to 3,000. Protections going down by 5. And magical base power going down from 40 to 25, and the scaling then being increased so that it's more later. But obviously what they want to do here is make the Gold Fury more of an early game objective that you're actually able to contest and get a lot of gold for it still, just a little less than before. Primal Fury also gets like minor adjustments here. The base magical power and the magical power scaling gets adjusted in return, same thing as in the Gold Fury. And then the Pyromancer gets its stats adjusted too, gets the gold reward reduced from 100 to 70 for the team, and the XP from 100 to 50, so that when one team takes the Gold Fury and the other team takes the Pyromancer, they will now take a bigger loss, so that it's not just an option to always ignore the other team trying to go for Gold Fury and just say like, oh, we cut our losses here and just do Pyromancer instead, but rather you're probably better off contesting the Gold Fury instead, and there actually be fights in that area over the Gold Fury, which I think is a good change. And the base health here for the Pyromancer is also adjusted by 250. Now, this change is actually probably, like, it's massive, but it's not massive. So Beads is getting a usability improvement. Players are now able to use Beads at any time they are alive, including during the pre- and post-fire of abilities, during leaps, dashes, and other channeled abilities, during untargetability or other immunities. This is extremely interesting. And I don't know what the implications for certain unique scenarios are. I can't really think like of anything in particular that stands out from the top of my head where it can be absolutely abused, but I'm sure some people have things in mind that will work very, very well with this. But I think, even though there will probably be some niche cases where you can absolutely abuse this, like by pre-beatsing very effectively, the benefit of being able to beats at any point and having it feel responsive and not being like, okay, I definitely pressed beats in that situation and it didn't go off, why? And then you were in the post-fire animation of an ability, which just always felt stupid for something that is so essential to work in that very moment. I think that's a good change. I think this is the way that it should feel, and I think this is better this way. I'm not exactly sure what is up with Aegis, if that is already the case for Aegis, or why Aegis isn't getting the same thing, if there are any complications. Obviously, you shouldn't be able to use it in all situations like beats, but I think it should be, like the first one here, the pre and post fire thing should probably be the case for Aegis as well. But yeah, I think it's generally a very good change, and I think this will resolve a lot of weird edge cases where you should have had beats and didn't. So I'm glad they're doing this. I'm very happy, even though I'm very sure it will lead to some fringe cases where it's gonna be annoying that it works this way now. And then we have a bunch of changes. They're saying they're now mostly, they're usually mostly focusing on buffs in the main update and nerfs in the bonus balance, but now they're gonna move key nerfs in the main patch as needed as well. And then bonus balance only nerfs. I didn't even know they were doing that in the first place. I don't know why they did that. Like, why not just put buffs and nerfs in the same place when it's needed? Like, just do the change when it's needed. So, yeah, I'm glad they're doing that this way now. But the first one is already very interesting. No, wait, no, the first one is actually not that interesting. It's the second one. The first one is Warlock Staff. This item now only provides percentage penetration once it's fully evolved. Okay, fair enough. I don't think that's unfair. I think that makes sense. But Book of Thoth. This item now provides 10 magical penetration when evolved, flat. And remember, flat pen items already got a lot of nerfs recently that made flat pen builds a lot more effective for mages again. And now you're getting even more flat pen. I think that is very scary. I think Book of Thoth with flat pen is extremely valuable. And I could see this being very valued by gods that make use of that later power spike, especially. You need to evolve it first, right? So you're not going to have this from the start, but once you do, maybe like you build it after you get one flat pen item or so, I think it would be huge. Jarens Coin, increased magical power from 80 to 90. That's a bit of a revert, I think. It's been a while since Jarens Coin got nerfed, but I think it used to be more. I think it used to be maybe 100, but yeah. That's fine. I think Jarens Coin, I think it's a cool item. I think it should be built more. So I'm happy with it. Silver Branch, it's getting a nerf. It's too popular. It's too effective at everything. And what they're saying is we see people building this item without ever using its passive. So that's the reason. Like, literally, it's probably going to stay that way, honestly. They increased the cost from maybe not. They increased the cost from 2,400 to 2,550, and they're decreasing the physical power from 30 to 25. The problem with Silver Branch, let me actually pull up the stats so I'm not missing any, because Silver Branch just has so many stats for an item, like I don't know. It has a 30 physical power, 30% attack speed, and 20% physical penetration. Like, it just makes it the go-to pen option for ADCs in so many situations, because it has that attack speed on top of that. So yeah, like I could imagine that even now some people will still pick it over other options. I mean, yeah, we'll see. It's just having this flat value compared to something like Exit that you need to stack first is just so valuable. It's stupid. And now we get into really spicy territory. Like, I'm normally not one for hunter buffs, but this one I actually really like. Devourer's Gauntlet. This item now provides 10 physical penetration when evolved. Devourer's Gauntlet is like, I think Devourer's Gauntlet is the epitome of hunter items, like, and it's not being used much because usually it's just outclassed by Transcendence, especially for a long time now. And this change will so massively affect how much impact this item can have, because like once you get those stacks, your early game is going to go through the roof. Like, this is more like 10 physical protection at that point of the game is more than 10 power, because it's going to affect the base damage of your abilities. And if you have a more ability focused hunter, that is very much relevant. And that's interesting, right? Because as an ability based hunter, you would normally want to go for Transcendence, because that gives you mana and cooldown reduction, blah, blah, blah. So there could be, technically, I don't think it's going to happen, but there could be a scenario where the ability-based hunters end up going for devils and AA-based hunters end up going for Transcendence, which would be very funny because it's the opposite of what it used to be. But I don't think we're going to get quite to that point, but it would be hilarious if we did. But yeah, that's going to be huge. So devils is going to be evolved, 70 physical power, 10 flat pen on top of that, which I would say like easily equals at least 90 power, and then the 25% lifesteal for 2,300 gold. You just need to stack it. But yeah, I like this, and I would like to see a meta where Devils actually outshines Transcendence for a while. I think we've had enough Transcendence. Transcendence is boring. I don't know. It's not boring, no, but like, I don't know. I miss life-stealing hunters, even though I feel like these are going to be life-stealing hunters that do way too much damage at the same time. So, yeah. But it's definitely going to shake up the hunter meta. Then we have Heartseeker. Decreased the cost from 2,900 to 2,750. Decreased the physical power requirement to reach maximum 6% bonus damage from 400 to 350. Still ridiculously high. Like, the requirements, whenever Hi-Rez puts up requirements for physical damage that you need to build to maximize the effect of an item, the numbers are just completely out of touch. And I don't know where it's coming from. Like, not every assassin player will want to run 6 damage items all the time. You need Magi's or something sometimes. You need some defensive option in there. And often that one defensive option will be enough to like keep you under cap, at least until you're using like pots or having extra buffs or whatever. Which I think it just feels so unnecessary to me. Like, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of like power inflation, so to speak. Like there are a lot of items that have gotten more power over time, more physical power over time. So I guess that kind of offsets it a little bit. But like think for example like the mace tree, right? Like most of those items are hovering at like 45-ish to 50. Well, we have Brawler says 55, right? But like Crusher is 45, Jolton's 45. Like, if we built the whole mace tree, we're like around, depending on how you're building, you know, without Titan's like three of the pen maces, you're around like 150 power. Can't build 6 maces. But if you could, that would not be enough to reach the cap for Heartseeker. Obviously, Heartseeker itself has a little bit more power as well, but like, that doesn't seem right to me. I think the values are just completely off on like max power. I think the people that are making the max power numbers required are like looking at hunters or something, but not even hunters. No, hunters got attack speed as well. So I don't know what they're looking at, but maybe they just want people to reach the highest values. Just make it lower. Make it like 250 maybe. That I think is like a much more reasonable realm. Then you'll and eventually max it out, obviously. But I mean that's the point. Most things in this game eventually get maxed out. Then we have Hardwood Amulet, gets a buffs, increase the magical protections aura from 15 to 20. I think that's great. I think that being a bit more in focus again after this fell off a fair bit. That's good. And that's same for Stronghold and Amulet of Science, of course. And then we have Height of the Nemean Line. Height of the Nemean Line is such a funny story at this point. Now they're doing decreased time to gain stacks for the block from 10 seconds to 8 seconds. Like, Height of the Nemean Lion, after I've been, like siding with hunters today a little bit, I'm going to side against hunters here. Height of the Nemean Lion is what happens when you listen to hunter mains for your balance decisions. No one else was mad about High of the Nemean Lion reflecting damage. Even assassin players, AA assassin players, they knew just not to attack the targets that are building High of the Nemean Lion. Obviously, there were phases where High of the Nemean Lion was too strong, then it was nerfed, so it was not too strong. The only ones who didn't like it were hunters that couldn't just, blindly nuke down guardians that were building High of the Nemean Lions or warriors. But the item was good. The item was fun for everyone else. It was fine. It was not completely broken for most of its playtime. And then they switched it over to like all the block stacks and blah, blah, blah. And that was completely busted. And then now they're still giving a block stacks, but the block stacks don't really fully block. And now they have to reduce the duration and they adjust the armor values. And it's getting more confusing. And the description is way too long and annoying. And just make it reflect damage again. Just go back to what actually felt good and was fun for everyone except hunters. Make hunters suffer a little bit. They have devils with pen now. They'll be fine. Just give and take. Now Bancroft's Claw. The irony of this is that they literally, instead of writing anything about Bancrofts here, they're just writing about Hades. Like, that should tell you everything you need to know about this item. This item was designed for Hades. They specifically just made an item for Hades. They could have just locked it to Hades. Sean Kui too, but... decrease the shield from 1% of your max HP to 0.75% of your max HP per hit. I've said what I said about Bancroft's Claw before. Like, I just don't think it's good to have such a long description on an item in the first place. No. Let's not get into it again. I've had my talk about that stuff. Medical Spikes. Increase the cost from 2,200 to 2,400. Very much appropriate. And then some better visual clarity. The irony of that is that I have a feeling he'll still be built. It's not quite as cost efficient as before, but it's still very, very cost efficient in terms of what it overall offers for the amount that you have to spend on it. It's still 35 protections each, 300 health, 20 MP5, plus the effect. That's still pretty good. I feel like it's gonna be like, not as prioritized because it's not like that super cheap, but it's gonna be good. And what's also still gonna be good is definitely Fabless Tubes. Gets a nerf. Also cost increase here. 2,200 to 2,300 in this case. Again, I've said this before. The only thing that's holding Fabless Tubes back is the fact that not every guard can use it particularly well. If every guard could use it, the effect of it well, then it would just be very, very popular. Like this, it's like, good for the ones that have it, that can use it. But it's not that many guards that can use it. That brings us to the guards. Camazot's Screech, increased physical power scaling from 70 to 80%. Yeah, cool. Not really much to say about that. Slight buff. Easy. Bigger buff, Thor. Beyond attunement has a mana cost reduction from 70 to 90 to 55 to 75. Okay, whatever. Tectonic Rift. This ability now deals damage equal to 30 to 110 base damage, plus 40% scaling to all targets hit by the initial line attack, which stuns. That is interesting. Along with that, Anvil of Dawn's bonus effect proc after you land will now also trigger from the damage done by Tectonic Rift, because it triggers from all your damage done. Fascinating. Very fascinating. Should be a fair amount of extra damage coming out of Thor, especially in an old combo. He has been very out of the meta for very long now, so I'm not opposed to this at all. I could imagine a world where this is a very heavy swing, though, because that is a lot of extra damage to have suddenly on an assassin. But it kind of makes sense at the same time. Like, honestly, it felt weird. Thor, when you think about it, Thor's ability felt kind of weird. Like, he slams his hammer on the ground, spikes come up, and then it's just like, yeah, you're stunned. No damage. I think, like, when I stopped thinking about it. When I initially played Smite, I always felt like it was weird that there was no damage with it. So, it just makes more sense now, so I'm fine with it. If its damage is too high, I'm sure they can adjust that in other places. Like, maybe they just take some damage off Neon's attunement or something to offset that. But yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine. Ganesh gets some buffs. Apparently just not being played enough outside of SPL, pretty much. Decrease the self-slow while firing this ability from 20 to 15%. And remove obstacles, decrease the cooldown from 15 to 14 down to 12 seconds. So lot more mobility / CC in a very short succession there, I would say. So watch out for Ganesh. This could be interesting. Like the second part here, this could be spicy. Also, Athena. Confound decreases the cooldown from 18 seconds to 18, scaling down to 16 seconds. And also, Athena now gains 35% damage mitigation while channeling Defender of Olympus, and increases damage mitigation on the target ally that you're teleporting to from 30 to 35%. This is very interesting because like Athena's biggest problem is always the downtime after her ability rotation. Confound having a shorter cooldown kinda makes that ability rotation come back up quicker, and Defender of the Olympus usually being the only thing that she can still use at that point if she hasn't used it to engage also means that she at least has a way to defend herself while being in that spot afterwards, and also help an ally just a little bit better. Should be very interesting, should be very fun. Happy with this one. Not so happy with the next one because Hercules meta is only fun for Hercules players. Increased basic attack speed per level from 0.8 to 1. Yeah, whatever. I mean, I guess this could be slightly noticeable when like clearing and stuff, but I don't think anyone is particularly worried about Hercules' attack speed. The second part here, strength from pain. Increase the base physical power per stack from 2 to 4. That I don't like. I don't like it all. That is a lot of extra power that I don't want it to have. I think this may be a revert. I am actually not quite sure. I feel like there was a point where strength... Oh yeah, it was a 5 power at some point. Like, Herc was overwhelming in season 7. Wow, this is a while ago now. He was just doing too much, and they said, okay, we're gonna nerf this quite heavily because it gives them a lot of power. And they nerfed that from 5 plus 1 per level to 2 plus 1 per level. And now it's to 4 per stack. I'm worried. I don't want to see Herc in my games. Now we have Tyr. So we're going back to back with the pushing, bullying solo laners. This one, very interesting as well. Change stance. This ability now provides 50% of the benefit while in the opposing stance in addition to the current bonuses. So you get 0 to 25 physical power in the defense stance, and you get 0 to 25 protections in the assault stance. I think this is like fine, but also a bit weird to me because when I look at these stances, they are so clearly defined. To me, it feels like you're making this active choice that now you want to be aggressive, now you want to do more damage, now you want to have that power, or you're making this choice that now I need to protect myself better, and that is still going to be the case, but to a much lesser degree. So overall, I would say it's taking away like the strategical element a little bit because yeah, you just always have at least some of the protection, some of the damage, so you don't have to worry that much, and you're going to do some more damage when you're attacking someone in defensive stance as well. So yeah, I don't really like this. I would have just rather seen a more direct buff to abilities or something than this. This is a bit watered down, I feel. Shiva, actually interesting insofar that they're saying like, yeah, he's not performing well enough, send him further down than expected, blah blah blah. And I was like, really? Is it that bad? And I looked at his win rate, and it's like, yeah, okay, he's like a 48 win rate in silver, he's got a 52 win rate in gold, a 49 win rate in plat, 51 win rate in diamond, and a 53 win rate in master. So he's like very much hovering the 50% across all levels of play. And he's getting 3 buffs, and I'm not quite sure where that's coming from. Like this is not really something that I would say seems necessary. So he's getting Emblazoned Sweep, he's getting the movement speed increased from 20 to 25% in Bliss Stance, and the protection debuff increased from a protection reduction from 4 to 20 to 5 to 25 in Destruction Stance. And then the Morose Tempo has the attack speed buff in Bliss Stance and the attack speed buff in Destruction Stance from these abilities increased from 25 to 30%. And it's not gigantic buffs, I guess, but it's also not minor buffs. And I don't know why. Like maybe because he's relatively new still, comparatively, they just want him to be a bit more popular, a bit more above average. But yeah, no, I don't like, I don't really see why he is not considered balanced when he's like pretty much very balanced everywhere except in bronze. But bronze and grandmasters, but both bronze and grandmasters have such a small sample size, at least on ranked casual smite, that you usually don't count them. Like, you don't actually get any significant information from them because there's not enough games played in those brackets. So I don't know. I don't know what's up with this. I don't know where this is coming from. This feels almost biased. It's strange. Probably the weirdest change of this entire patch, actually. We have Morgan Le Fay, minor buffs, Sigil Mastery, or like minor reverts actually. Sigil Mastery cooldown decreased from 13 to 12 seconds, and Shroud of Whitefire 14 to 13 seconds. She had, you know, some pretty heavy nerfs after her launch, and now they're just going a little bit back on that. So that seems very fair to me. Not much to say. Then Sol also gets some reverts. Stellar Burst increased the magical power scaling from 35 to 40% per hit. And Supernova increased the power scaling from 45 to 50% per hit. So, yeah, fair enough. See if we can see a bit more Sol. Janos. Okay. Janos is this card that's just statistically always underperforming, but is always terrifying in the right hands, and I think that's just going to happen again. They're saying, like, yeah, watching this is not going to happen, but Threshold decreased the cooldown from 15 to 13 seconds. This is a very, very potent ability. Don't underestimate Threshold just because it's not a direct damage ability. And through time and space, increased magical power scaling from 65 to 80% of your magical power. And that's coming in combination with more flat pen being introduced recently, and again with this patch. That's Janos hours. Like, I don't know. I think this is a bit over eager in a patch we're already seeing item changes to mages. I'll see, but the statistics probably won't show it. But the games where people just get blasted by Janos will show it. And her Impale increased the base damage from 90 to 350 to 105 to 365, and increased the physical power scaling from 75 to 80%. Fair enough, just like some relatively minor buffs. Charybdis. Spike Shot increased the splinter base damage from 10 to 30 to 20 to 40. Considering the splinters are not like overly massive threat, I think it's okay. I think it's not crazy. And the Capsize increased the base damage from 80 to 280 to 90 to 290. Also completely fair enough. Here's my I told you so. Or I didn't tell you so, because I didn't end up talking about it. I wanted to talk about it, but I didn't want to discuss it. Because I made a tweet and people got very riled up very quickly because they strongly disagreed about Ishta. I made a tweet shortly after a launch, and I thought Ishta was honestly not trash, but not very good either. Because she just lacks a lot of things. People disagreed. I didn't want to discuss it because I knew that when people like a god a lot, especially design-wise, they're not gonna spend much time thinking about the stats, performance. They're just gonna go by feelings. What happened is Ishta performed as expected in all levels of play. Basically, it's kind of doing okay, I think, on the highest level of play, but like only okay, really. Again, unless you're counting Grandmasters and Bronze, you shouldn't. And now she's getting her buffs. This was coming from the start. And I wouldn't even be surprised if this is not the only one she's getting, but she's getting a very fat buff. So we'll see. She needs more after that, but it felt good to be right on this one. It felt good to be very right on this one after I felt very bad for a god before that a while ago that I was wrong on, being her lover. My estimations, my approximations, my feelings for Gilgamesh were very incorrect. My feelings for Ishta were spot on. Buff. Imbue arrows, increased duration from 5 to 6 seconds. Increased damage on Storm Shot from 80% to 85% of Ishta's basic attack damage. Look out for this one, that's huge. Like extra damage on that long range, that's gonna be scary. That's gonna be a really good poke. Increased bonus damage on Strike Shot from 8 to 30 to 14 to 30. Quite a fair bit more bonus damage early, but I feel like you're not really using it for the bonus damage. Your early clear is good enough, so that one not so important, I think. And then Rolling Thunder, increased base damage per hit from 40 to 120 to 50 to 150. So if you're leveling this early, which used to kind of feel bad, honestly, that's gonna be feeling a lot better now. So Ishta, probably a lot more fun to play now. Honestly, I think this might just be, like, especially the Rolling Thunder part, that might just be what she needed. But she will still have the issue of being, like, very campable, very, very gankable. And that's not going to go away. That's just, like, a core part of her kit. So I think she will at least remain somewhat niche or needs a comp that is built around her. She could be very interesting, though. Like, think, for example, with Maui. That could be very fun. That could be a very interesting combination. She has all those CCs that he can then play off of, and then she can burst them with his setup. So yeah, that could be cool. Yeah, that's Ishta. That's my redemption arc here, and then we have the voice actors here, and that is it. Thank you very much for watching. Might see you for another New World video later. Might see you for the weekend when we test some more Maui. Either way, hope to see you for the next one soon. Freak a sub button, maybe the bell. Duke Sloth out.